Exclusively designed by Nixie Nax Arts, we bring you our second exclusive mat with the colossal Rainbow Neos taking on Red Eye's Dragoon, using both Dark Magician and Red Eyes alongside Elemental Hero Neos and of course Rainbow Dragon. Produced by Venom Battle Gear, this is an exclusive mat only available from their site. You can get this mat both with and without zones, and it can be shipped worldwide. What are you waiting for? Visit venombattlegear.co.uk to get your own exclusive Rainbow Neos versus Red Eyes Dragoon playmat. What's up YouTube, Dow here from Zephyr War Games, bringing you, of course, a updated Dark Magician deck. Now, this deck I've actually worked so hard on. Like, I've done a lot of testing, a lot of changing around ratios, a lot of like full-on work. Tried this, tried that. Now I've got the other options. I've also got my side deck to the side as well that I will show you towards the end of the video. I will try and do you some Dragoon combos, but everyone and their mum has done that, so I'll just only be repeating what they've already shown you. But I'll show you what this deck is capable of and the ways it kind of works. There's a couple of little spicy touches to the deck, and like I said, I've been going back and forth with the type of draw cards I've used. I've been talking with the Dark Magician Facebook page, asking a lot of questions. Really wanted to make this as competitive as possible, but while also keeping it pure and using and abusing, of course, Red Eyes Dragoon, because the fingers crossed, Red Eyes Dragoon becomes a only for Dark Magician kind of deck, which I don't think is going to happen yet, but eventually down the road, I'm hoping they're going to ban stuff like the Verti Anaconda so it no longer becomes splashable, and it does literally become, if you play Dark Magician or Red Eyes, you can now play this card. With that said and done, please smash that like button, hit the notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more Yu-Gi-Oh content coming up. Joe has a very, very awesome updated Gaia profile involving Red Eyes of Dragoon with a little bit more synergy than you would naturally think as well. With that out of the way, please let's get on to today's profile of Dark Magician. Now, as you all know by now, the Dark Magician is my most profiled deck on the channel. It is my favourite deck. That is why I had this map made exclusively for you guys as well. So we start off with triple Dark Magician. Now, of course, any artwork will do. I do prefer the original artwork. I did also used to play the promo artwork as well, really like that, but I've gone back to the original artwork. I am waiting for my original artwork for Red Eyes to come through the post as well, and then they will be a matching pair. But triple Dark Magician. Unfortunately, you do need to play triple Magician Souls in this build because we are going for as competitive as possible and as consistent as possible. So playing Magician Souls at 3 is an absolute must. You can replace it. Now, if you are going to replace this for anything, you go for Fusion Deployment. And the reason I would do that is you would then need to put in your Keeper of Dragon Magic, because then you'd be relying a lot less on the Verti combo and going a lot more on just natural fusion plays. So that is the closest replacement. So if you're like, I haven't got souls, does that mean I can't play this deck? No. What I'm saying to you guys is if you don't have souls, adapt the deck to what you do have, go more fusion focused, and you'll still be able to cause a lot of issues. We've then, of course, got the triple Magician's Rod. Now, I did and ah. I was playing with Keeper of Dragon Magic. I did have this in there. And after talking to a lot of people on the Dark Magician Facebook chat, I kind of agreed with them. The biggest issue you had was it massively clashed with Rod. And right now, because we still have access to Verti Anaconda, and we can actually get to Verti Anaconda very easily in this particular build, you don't really want to rely on locking yourself out, because if your opponent was to Ash or to Imperm or anything like that on your Keeper of Dragon Magic, you're still locked out of the extra deck from making anything bar fusion summons, so you're in a very, very bad spot. So on this one, I've kind of gone focal for Magician's Rod. And to back Magician's Rod up, and this card is actually incredibly important as well, is triple Jester Conflict. Now, the reason this is so important is because I've actually put a lore back in the deck. Because I'm playing more dark targets now, I don't feel as restricted. Like, if I end up getting into 2 Rods, or a Jester Conflict, or a Buster Whelp, or even a double Souls, I don't mind banishing one of those. So I've got a lot more targets. The reason Jester Conflict is so good is because Jester Conflict gets you into Verti Anaconda. So as long as you've got the normal summon of Rod, you've got the special summon of Apprentice, you've got the special summon of Souls, that then gets you into Verti Anaconda. The fact he is not a hard once per turn, it just is you can only control one Jester Conflict. You just get to go, okay, cool. Use Jester Conflict plus your normal summon, or Jester Conflict plus Souls. go into Verte Anaconda. Verte Anaconda only locks you from special summoning once you activate its effect. So you go into Verte Anaconda first, or you go into Union Carrier first. You then, if you have another Jester Conflict, and of course a Souls or anything like that, you then use both of those, go into either the Verte Anaconda or you go into the Union Carrier. That then gives you the ability to Union Carrier your Dragoons, meaning you're not going to get super polyed, and it also gives you a base 4k, which can rise to 5k, meaning that the next turn, you're probably going to win. So Jester Conflict is actually very important. This actually took the place of Keeper of Dragon Magic. So I did play 2 Keeper of Dragon Magic plus a Polymerization. This has now taken its spot purely because I think this is a bit more consistency and it actually allows me to get to my other link monsters that can give me more issues. So if I'm going game 1 and I'm not worried about Super Poly, then you go Verte Anaconda, IP Masquerena, Dragoons, and then during your opponent's turn you can turn IP Masquerena with Verte Anaconda into an Appaloosa, should you want to put it in there, or of course you can go into an Avramax as well, and you've got pretty much 2 indestructible, immovable objects that your opponent can't deal with, and one of them would be light, one of them would be wind, and the other one would be dark, so you wouldn't get super polyed either. Of course your opponent can change super poly to it, but if they're trying to dig their deck for a super poly, then you can dodge it. Then we've got double Apprentice Illusion Magician. This is actually, again, really important in this deck now because that additional monster on the board is Verte Anaconda. Literally 2 monsters on the board, Verte Anaconda, Dragoons. That is the play you want to go for because then you want to back up your Dragoons with an Eternal Soul, a Magician's Circle, and straight away you've got 2 forms of interruptions during your opponent's turn, which previously a Dark Magician deck really wouldn't have. Then for the last runners, we've got the 1 Red Eyes Black Dragon and the 1 Busterwelt Destruction Sword. Like I said, Super Poly is a big issue, not just for the Dark Magician deck, but a big issue for any deck that needs to use Verte Anaconda to go into Dragoons. Because you've got to remember that the second they make Verte Anaconda, when they use its effect to fuse into a Dragoons, that's it. They can't go anywhere else. They are going to be permanently locked on 2 Dark monsters. So straight away, if you want to get rid of a Dragoons, you then Super Poly. If they were to back it up with a Savage Dragon, even better for you, you Super Poly, clear the board off. I'm personally frightened of a Super Poly on this deck, less so for the fact that I've got stuff like Eternal Soul that's going to allow me to still maintain an interruption. But also you kind of need to be aware of that. So, like I said, using the combo with just a conflict, you go into a Union Carrier, you go into a Appaloosa, you try to dodge the Super Poly wherever best possible, and go from there. You could side this out game 2 if you feel your opponent's going to be more used to it, and you also take it out if you know you're going to be going second, because it really is a dead card at that point. Speaking of go first, go second cards, my first spell that I have put in here is triple Forbidden Droplet. Now, this can be a Dark Ruler no more should you wish. The only reason that I personally went with Forbidden Droplet was because it's good both going first and second. So the way I kind of looked at it is like, I don't want to clog my deck down with hand traps. There's so much space that is limited in this particular build. I need a card. So rather than me worrying, right, okay, drop a hand trap on my opponent can still play through it and get to the end of the board. It's like, I'd rather play a card like Dark Ruler No More or Forbidden Droplet that can act as a hand trap technically if I went first, because I can set it or act like an imperm, set it, play it, do it. And if I have to go second because I don't win the dice roll, I don't want my deck to be able to go, okay, cool, 1 on the negate, no. 2nd on the negate, no. Right, cool, can't play, you go, you kill me, OTK. So I needed to make sure I main decked a card, and Forbidden Droplet was just that better card to be able to go first and second. Plus, your opponent is always going to target your Eternal Souls. They're always going to target your circles. So when they do something like that, you can just go, okay, cool, Droplet, chain, get rid of it before it gets destroyed by their own card, and then you're going to turn it off. Now, what used to be the biggest weakness in the deck of Eternal Soul is now actually a really good strength, because even if it goes, as long as you've got Dragoons on there, your Eternal Soul cannot nuke and destroy your Dragoons. So very, very important. Like I said, budget option, Dark Ruler No More, absolutely fine. Or you can put in your imperms, you can put in other forms of disruption. It's entirely up to you. Triple Dark Magical Circle, you know, pretty standard on this one. Triple Allure of Darkness, like I said, I've upped my dark targets in the deck, so I've actually upped the Allure target, I've actually put Allure back in. It was a card that I never used to really like, but my draw engine kind of went around. I was starting with Extravagance, and then after talking to a lot of people, I was like, okay, if I've searched enough, if I do enough, then Desires is actually going to be better for me than Extravagance. The only issue with Desires is you either activate it before you play your Verte combo, meaning you're going to risk your Verte combo resolution, but you're doing that because of out of desperation, or you're going to activate it after you've done the Verte combo, you've searched everything, you've sent everything to the grave that you need, and the 2 cards you're drawing are going to be Floodgate cards, or they're going to be cards that are going to interrupt or play around with your opponent a lot more. So that's kind of what you want to go for with these. Triple Soul Servant, again, this is just as important than ever. Incredibly powerful to stack the top of the deck. And this actually combos off incredibly well with the nice little tech that I've put in here. And I've played this before, but I'm playing it again, is the True Name with 1 Obelisk to Tormentor. Now, if you want to play it more Yugi based, you can do and put Slifer in here. But the reason I've gone with Obelisk is because going first, it actually gives you the ability of a good go second play and a good go first play. So True Name plus Soul Servant is the best one because that play allows you to go, cool, stack my deck with Rod or Souls, activate the True Name, call Rod or Souls, draw Rod or Souls, special summon out Obelisk, normal summon Rod, special summon Souls, get additional extensions off, straight away you got Verti Anaconda play. Then going second, what you can do is you can take Obelisk out for a Ra Sphere mode, and then you do the exact same combo, True Name, add Ra Sphere mode, drop it on your opponent, off you go, you're good to play again. So the True Name is actually a nice one because it lets you add technically any card. So if you were to have this and Circle, then you activate Circle, stack your top of your deck, and then go, excellent, cool, call the True Name, call whatever I want that I've just seen off of Circle, add it to my hand. Allure, Desires, you name it, the whole 9 yards. Then of course we move on to the other draw cards. I've got 2 Desires, so like I said, I went back and forth with Extravagance quite a lot, and then I really kind of looked into it and I was like, okay, so my Extravagance at the time was going to stop my Soul Servant, which I was kind of okay about. I was like, okay, this isn't the end of the world. I was like, okay, the True Name replaces that. But then I started playing around, I was like, right, okay, let's see what other draw cards I can put in. Let's look at consistency. I personally don't like the Spellbook engine because it is like a 5 to 6 card engine that is only going to draw me 2 cards. Whereas on this one, I've got a 5 card engine with triple Allure, double Desires that is going to end up drawing me 4 cards technically, and it will be like a +1, or however you want to then describe the Desires of a -9. So I kind of went with Desires. Like I said, it is quite risky because of the main deck, but the idea is that you kind of either want to make it, play it in desperation to fix the hand, or you want to play it as a last resort to go through as well. For the one-offs, we've got the 1 Red Eyes Fusion, the 1 Secrets of Dark Magic, and the 1 Dark Magic Inheritance. Now the only issue that I kind of have at the moment that I'm still working on is I want to put Magical Eyes Fusion in there. This is a 42 card deck. There are 3 cards I'm going to show you in a minute that personally you might consider taking out. It will definitely be a card you side out going second, but I'll explain why I've kept it in as well. You could even arguably take out Secrets of Dark Magic just so you can resolve a Verti Anaconda twice. But the idea is that once you've resolved Red Eyes Fusion, you've got your Dragoons on the first turn, you've done it through Verti Anaconda, you'll then go for your Secret of Dark Magic and kind of go from there. So this is a little bit limited on the whole fusion summoning basis, but the idea is that you're going to use Dragoons as your first turn like hold off, and then by that point, if you've built up your board correctly, you've built up your combos correctly, you're going to be able to then build up into a link monsters during your next turn. That will then provide you with the final piece that you need that will then allow you to OTK or finish off your opponent. So there's a lot of building and back and forth with this, and that's kind of the direction I've gone with. So for the traps, we've gone with Triple Gozen Match. Now the reason I've actually stuck at this one is because the way I've kind of seen it is, worst case scenario, right? If I've bricked or I've done really badly, but I open up this and Droplet, I can set both of those cards. Now, I've been using the example of going up against the board of, you know, Herald plus Savage Dragon plus Appaloosa. Now, Forbidden Droplet will need to send 2 just to get past that board, which is very, very tough board to deal with, right? Whereas, if I did brick, out of my 6 cards, as long as I set Gozen and I set Forbidden Droplet, I pass it to my opponent's turn. I activate Forbidden Droplet, banishing, or not banishing, sending at least a monster and another card. That allows me to turn off Herald and Savage and mean they can't respond to me. I can then flip a Gozen Match. The Gozen Match will then restrict them to 1 monster. So they're either going to want to keep an Omni Negate of Savage Dragon, or they're going to want to keep a 4 monster negate of Appaloosa, and it also means that they're not going to be able to continue playing their plays further forward. Of course, if they got Block Dragon, they'll limit themselves into Earth, but apart from Block Dragon, there isn't really a lot of powerful Earth monsters within the main deck that is going to OTK me that particular turn. In regards to us, we actually play a lot of darks. Verti Anaconda is a dark, our whole main deck is dark, and of course, Dragoons and all of our fusions are dark. So the only thing that this really hurts us with is, of course, going to be our link climbs into Selene, or the Guard Dragon Unduct, or of course, Access Code Talker. But then by building into those, you actually have the ability of making souls, and soul sends this at any point you want, is then going to allow you to play on further from there. So that's why I've kept Gozen Match in. Finally, one of the very few Dark Magician decks that actually plays Triple Eternal Soul, morely because this is part of the combo that you want to get going. So ideally what you want to do is you want to end your board on a Verti Anaconda with an Eternal Soul and a Circle. Eternal Soul is not as damaging right now because in the past, if Eternal Soul got nuked, you would lose your entire board. Whereas now, if Eternal Soul does get nuked, as long as you've got a Dragoons on board, he will stay there. So you'll still have a 4K monster or a monster that has an Omni Negate to be played through. And that's going to cause your opponent a lot of issues as well. So that's why I've kind of gone with triple Eternal Soul. Now before I show you the extra deck, here are a couple of other cards that I was playing around with that I hadn't decided to put in as of yet. So Magical Eyes Fusion, I kind of want to find space to put this card in here, purely because it does give you another time that after you've done Red Eyes Fusion, you can Magical Eyes Fusion and get another Dragoons out quite easily without having to kind of turn a Dark Magician into a Dragon, bring the Dark Magician back, and then use your own spellbook. Not spellbook, sorry, quick play. Keyword Dragon Magic, already talked about this guy. The limitation on the normal summon and the clash with Rod, through testing it was fine, but there was a couple of times I was like, even with a lore, which is quite good because you go, right, okay, Rod do this and then banish Dragon, or Dragon do this and banish Rod. But again, it was very, very specific. The fact that it also locked me out of the extra deck was kind of another big issue, and that's kind of why I went the route that I have with Jester Conflict. Reasoning is another one that I'm actually looked into because you actually play, in this particular build, you play 3s, 1s, 6s and 7s. So it could be used as a very, very good spell that can help you extend as well. It is something that I'm looking at putting in, but like I said, I'm at 42 cards at the moment. I'm still trying to find cards that I want to kind of cut out. And then lastly, the only other card that I was considering was Successor's Soul, the brand new card as well that came out in the Megatins. The reason I haven't put this in here is purely because it's not searchable. I didn't think that was going to be a big issue at the start, but it actually turns out to be a really, really big issue. Purely because, like I said, I'm at 42 cards already. So if I need to cut out 4 cards just to put 2 copies of this in. This is really good if your opponent stops a Rod and you've got no form of extension. But the idea of this build is even if I do get Veiled, even if I do get Impermed, I still have the ability to Souls or Jester Conflict, go into a Verti Anaconda and play from there. Now, obviously, if I take out the Jester Conflicts and I go more defensive, more control-based, then you can easily put in Successor's Soul because then straight away, it does give you another form of interruption. The idea is that during your opponent's turn, you would need to leave yourself a Rod or a Souls on board to then tribute said Souls or said Rod, also target your opponent's monster to then send that opponent's monster, summon out a Dark Magician, and then trigger a Circle to banish. So there was a lot of components that needed to fall right for you in order to resolve and successfully play this card effect out. Not so mean, like if your opponent was to normal summon a monster or get a monster on board that's going to pop your circle or targets to pop your circle and you've already used your Dragoons or anything like that, this then becomes irrelevant because you're not going to get the double negate that you kind of want. And you're actually going to be able to control it a lot more with your Eternal Soul, trigger Eternal Soul, bring back a Dark Magician, trigger Circle, and then off you go. So unless your opponent is planning to play Twin Twisters or anything like that to take out both your back row, that's something you need to be wary of. If your opponent was to activate a Lightning Storm, to be totally honest with you, what I would actually do with that is I would trigger the... I wouldn't even trigger the Eternal Soul. I'd just go... actually, no, I would, sorry. I would trigger the Eternal Soul, bring back the Dark Magician, let it nuke, because then when it nukes, it actually takes away your Verti Anaconda but leaves your Dragoon, and you go, that's fine, because now I know I'm not going to get Super Polyed because you decided to play that. You decided to play Lightning Storm over the back row. So if their hand was Lightning Storm plus Super Poly, they would technically have to go Lightning Storm, not get negated by Dragoon, and then chain Super Poly. That would cause you a bit of issues, but again, that's a bit of further extension that your opponent would have to keep in mind. So yeah, this is the 42 card build here, and these are just other suggestions that I've kind of been looking at and options to put in the deck as well. Now let's move on to the extra deck, the part that you've all been waiting for, the big bad guy that is Red Eyes Dragoon. Now, in my particular build, I am running 2 Red Eyes Dragoon. A lot of people are going to be fearing this card. A lot of people are going to be looking out for this card. So they're going to try and remove it as early as they possibly can. So you do need to make sure you have a second as a backup alternative should the first one go astray. Now, for those of you who don't know what Red Eyes Dragoon does, you should all by now, but it requires Dark Magician plus Red Eyes Black Dragon or 1 Dragon Effect monster. Cannot be destroyed by card effects. Neither player can target this card with card effects. During your main phase, you can destroy 1 monster your opponent controls, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the number of original attack, equal to that monster's original attack. You can use the effect of number times up to the number of normal monsters used for its fusion summon. So obviously, you send Red Eyes, you send Dark Magician, off you go, happy days. Once per turn, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you discard 1 card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. And if you do that, you gain 1,000 attack. So the negation is only once per turn, but just going second, this card can go pop, burn you, pop, burn you. And like you've already beat your opponent down, and he's swinging in for like 4k, you've pretty much got game from that point onwards. We've got the one Dark Magicians and the one Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. You actually have to hard make these. We're not playing Eye of Timaeus in this build. Again, that was another card that I was playing around with, debating whether I wanted to put it in the deck or not, and it kind of ultimately came down to that the fact, again, it's not searchable. It didn't actually make it any easier or any more consistent. So Dark Magicians is very cool for the draw effect as well. We're not actually relying on getting 2 of these on board anymore. Previously I was like, all right, I want to get 2 fusions on board. That's how I want to play it. But again, you're setting yourself up for an even more devastating Super Poly. So I've now kind of gone, right, Verti Anaconda turn 1, Dragoons. That's my goal. And then goal 2 is going to be control my opponent during their turn with Circles, Eternal Souls, Dragoon. And then in my next turn, I'm going to start linking up or these as alternatives. The XYZs have got a Bond Illusion and Red Ice Flare, just because Red Ice Flare puts your opponent under a lot of pressure if you do get 2 level 7s on board. A little bit rarer in this build particularly, purely because the only level 7s we are running are Dark Magician, so you would then have to overlay the 2 Dark Magicians to get the 3rd out of deck or to burn your opponent out. So these are very situational, which is why you can see why Extravagance is actually an option, because you can bump all of your core cards up to 3. For Limit Monsters, double Verti Anaconda, just so you have the ability to resolve this twice. Now, obviously, right now, with this particular main deck, there's only 1 fusion spell that you're going to be sending with Verti Anaconda. So this is literally, if your opponent stops it, you're going to send it as cost anyway. So you need to be able to have a second if your opponent tries to interrupt it or stop it before it can even activate its effect. Alternatively, if you do put Magical Eyes Fusion into the deck, that is another way that you can use the second Verti Anaconda as well. For the other Link monsters, you've got the one Umduct, the World Chalice Guard Dragon. So the way this works is you link off your Dark Magician, go into Umduct, it is a dragon, bring back your Dark Magician, and then you can hard fuse into your Red Ice Dragoon. IP Masquerina, you want to be able to disrupt your opponent. So the ideal situation, if you're not worried about Super Poly, is Verti Anaconda, IP Masquerina, Dragoons. That's going to give you a Link 4 capability, Link 3, or a Link 2 should you really want to during your opponent's turn as a form of interruption. And then on top of that, you've got a Dragoons and a Dark Magician that's going to come back to cause your opponent issues. Now, the Union Carrier is a very, very specific one because the way this works is, again, a more defensive one if you're worried about Super Poly. Now, obviously, because neither player can target Dragoons with card effects, you can't actually attach to Dragoons. So you'd actually have to attach the Buster Whelp to your Verti Anaconda. So being able to attach the Verti Anaconda is only going to boost it to 1500, which means the way this is going to have to work is you're going to have to protect your Verti Anaconda. But it does mean, instantly off the bat, your opponent can't Super Poly. They would have to go normal summon, not use an effect, go into battle phase, kill your Verti Anaconda, and then by the time they've killed your Verti Anaconda, you're only left with a light of Union Carrier and a dark of Dragoons. So they're not going to be able to Super Poly you. So it really does put them under pressure, it really does put them in an issue. Ideally, what you'd like to do is you'd like to get a Dark Magician back on the board, or you'd like to get something that's a little bit stronger than Verti Anaconda and equipped it with the Union Carrier. But, can you imagine if Union Carrier was equipped into Dragoons? It would just cause so many issues, it would be nuts. And then moving into Link 3s, we've got the Unicorn to come off of the IP Masquerina plays. Celine, Queen of the Master Magicians. Now, you play so many spells that her counter count really doesn't matter. But the idea is she can actually bring back Dragoons if you wanted to. She brings back any spellcaster and then straight away use her plus whatever you've brought back and go into your access code talker. And then by that point you've done this, you should have a dark with Verti Anaconda and a light with Celine in the graveyard at the very least. If you do bring back Dark Magician, you turn it into the World Dragon Umduct, and then you're going to have a Wind, a Light, and a Dark. So that's 3 pops plus 3k. He's going to cause your opponent even more issues. And then the last boss monster is Blackluster Soldier of Chaos, because you could technically use Dragoons to go into it. I don't know why you would, but it does give you an option that should you bring back off of Celine, and you've got 2 monsters, let's just say 2 Jester Conflicts, or Jester Conflict and a normal summon of Rod, you can use those 3, go into BLS, and then you kind of go from that. BLS is a very, very particular type of card to use. It's not a must if you haven't got it, and neither is Access Code. Like I said, your Link 4s could easily be either a Top Logic Zero Boros, it could be an Avramax, it could even be a Bomber Dragon if you really want to. The idea is you want to be looking at Link monsters that are just 2+ monsters that are Link 4s, because they are your boss monsters, so you could even go for the Abomination as well, the Unchained Abomination. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the deck. Like I said, I put a lot of thought into this, play tested it a lot. One thing that, the initial goal for this, like I said, is my first turn play is Dragoons. My second turn play is to be able, with just this main deck, not even going into the side, is to be able to stop my opponent's board, negate my opponent's board, make my own Dragoons, and then at that point, because I can deal damage because they're not under Dark Ruler no more, I can then just go, cool, I've made my Dragoons is going to go pop the threat, draw and draw. Sorry, not draw and draw, burn and burn. So that's the whole idea behind it, that I'm either going to be able to break their board apart, or I'm going to be able to go first and they're not going to be able to break my board with this full 42 card deck. Now, when the side deck gets involved, which is exactly what I've got beside me here, that's where you're going to start adapting the way you play. So, of course, we're looking at the Wild Dragon Sphere mode purely because we do play the True Name. If you don't play the True Name, you don't need to worry about Ra Sphere mode. But a lot of boards, like I'm saying, the biggest threat board that I'm worried about right now is when it's got double on the negate, if not more, plus an Appaloosa, and my opponent is now going to be able to be putting a Dragoon on their board on top of that. So you need to be able to negate as much as you possibly can and stop that from going off. Now, I do believe Droplet actually targets... Well, it says choose that many opponent's effect monsters your opponent controls. I don't know what the wording is on that, but technically it's not target. So I'm not too sure if you can turn off Dragoons. If you can, even better. Super Poly. Super Poly can actually help you out because if you have a Dark Magician on board, keep in mind, I'm pretty sure when your opponent activates Red Eyes Fusion, their Dragoon becomes Red Eyes. So you actually are able to use Super Poly to get rid of their Red Eyes because it technically comes as Red Eyes Black Dragon. So you get to use that and your Dark Magician. If not, then all you need to do is get a Dark Dragon on the board and a Dark Magician, and you're able to make your own Dragoons. So Super Poly, I've told you, is so important. Not to mention that because Dragoons is actually a spellcaster, all you need is another spellcaster or a Dark Magician or Dark Magician go, and then you can go into the Dark Magicians. So it does give you a lot to play around with. Not to mention if you wanted to start putting in your Predaplant, your Trappist Spelio, your Atignista Golem, anything like that, it gives you more targets. The other stuff that we're putting inside decks in the Nibiru, of course, no real downside to your board potentially if you're going second. Lightning Storm, if you're worried about back row control, Lightning Storm can be very, very helpful. Evenly Matched, the issue with this is you need to bait out the negates, but if you do bait out the negates, look at like Dogmatica Invoked, and Evenly Matched will rip their board apart before they even know it. Infinite Impermanence, if you're not maining it, you can side it. It's probably like the only hand trap that I would say you could probably side. Everything else I say should be in the main deck if you're going to play it at all. Like I said, with my build, I've not gone for, will my one hand trap stop you? I've gone for, my go second card will stop you. So it's not a might effect, it's a, I will make sure this stops you. Artifact Lancia, I think this is really good. Dino hype right now, Thunder Dragon hype right now. Invoked as well with Invoked and... Dogmaticas, very specific. It doesn't have to be in the side deck, but it is an option as well. Instead of Ra Sphere mode as well, you can play stuff like Kaijus, you can play stuff like Lava Golem, depending on what you require. We've then got the Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. A lot of people are actually maining this because it is a dragon and it is a dark. The reason I'm not maining this is purely because, I mean, I understand it. 9 times out of 10, the decks that are being played right now are going to go Verti Anaconda, so this will technically be live. But it's just one of them cards where it's like, if my opponent doesn't link summon, I've got a dead card in my hand. I've got another dead level 7 that I can't really get rid of that's going to cause me a lot of issues. So it's kind of good, but kind of bad, which is why it's in the side deck and not in the main deck. And then finishing it off, you've got Triple Tactical Talents. If you have them, you can side them in. I've been testing it as a main deck card. It hasn't really worked out for me, purely because it's so reliant on my opponent. Now, what I'm hoping for, you can put Call by the Grave under this list as well if you're not going to main it, but again, it's another card that I was like, if you're not going to main it, why bother? And the reason I'm not going to main it is because I don't mind if I get ashed, I don't mind if I get imperm because I can't stop it anyway, I don't mind if I get Veiled. The only one that really derails my plays is if I get Ogred, because then I don't have the 2 monsters on the board to make the Verti Anaconda. And the only time that a Veiler or an Imperm really suck is if they do it on the Verti Anaconda, and then if you do it on the Verti Anaconda, the only thing that the Call By is going to stop is the Veiler. So really balancing up the consistency between what it's going to do for me and what it's not. So Triple Tactical Talents is a very good side in. If your opponent does become hand trap heavy, you put this straight in, you're going to get a draw 2 or you're going to get a rip from the hand. I'm not too sure if it's worthy of a main deck spot right now, purely because if my opponent doesn't activate a monster effect during my turn, this is another dead card. And I've actually had that a lot when I played it in my Dogmaticas and when I played it in my Generators. Because they're going to ash me during their turn on my Generators. They're going to, like, unless they're putting a board to activate an effect, it's very, very situational. And then even then, if my opponent does have said board of Herald plus Savage, I need to bait both those effects out. So the first effect, I need to take it and then the second effect I need to bait out to activate the triple tactical talents, otherwise they're just going to stop it. And it's like, okay, well, unless I've droplet you, I'm not going to get the draws off of it. And if I droplet you, you're not going to activate effects unless I leave one of them unaffected. And I'm not going to want to do that because I want to make my plays go off. So it's very, very situational, which is why it's only in the side. Now, I know this was a very, very long video, guys, but I wanted to explain every single detail of this deck. It is the most consistent play that I've had right now. You can, arguably, and this is one thing I'm going to say about the Obelisk and the True Name play, is you don't actually have to have a God in deck to activate and resolve. So even if you do play the first one, you get Obelisk on the board, you can still activate the second one even without a God in board because it's a then do. So you have to be able to do A to activate. You don't have to be able to do B. So arguably Obelisk could come out, you could play 3 True Names if you wanted to. And just because you've got so many stack abilities, you've got Soul Servant and then you've got Circle. So that's 6 cards out of your main deck that's going to stack your deck for you. That allows you to get access to any card in your deck that you put on top of your deck. Soul Servant, specifically Dark Magician cards. Circle, any card you stack on top of the deck you want. And then you're going to get to add it, you're going to get a God. You're going to be able to either nuke your opponent's board or you're going to be able to use it as link fodder to go further. And that's the reason that I've played it the way I have. I'm always open to any suggestions or any questions you might have. Put them in the comments below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. But I hope this was thorough enough and I hope this provided you with enough details of how this works. I've kind of explained some of the combos. Like I said, Rod plus Conflict, Souls plus Jester Conflict, the True Name plus Soul Servant. All of those are Verti Anaconda, 2 Dragoon combos, and that still allows you to have 3 cards in your hand. Not to mention, if you do Rod, you do Circle, you cover your hand back. If you do Rod, you do Soul Servant, and you've got Dark Magician in the graveyard, you banish it, you get an additional draw. Desires, draw. Allure, draw. You've got so much ways to burn through your deck that is very, very consistent and very, very powerful and very, very control based as well. Anyway, thank you so much to every single one of you for watching. Please, like I said at the start, smash that like button, hit the notification bell and subscribe. Every bit of support you provide the channel allows us to keep making content exactly like this. Thank you so much for everybody watching at home. And as absolutely always, guys, stay safe and happy dueling. Exclusively designed by Nixie Nax Arts, we bring you our second exclusive mat with the colossal Rainbow Neos taking on Red Eye's Dragoon, using both Dark Magician and Red Eyes alongside Elemental Hero Neos and of course Rainbow Dragon. Produced by Venom Battle Gear, this is an exclusive mat only available from their site. You can get this mat both with and without zones, and it can be shipped worldwide. What are you waiting for? Visit venombattlegear.co.uk to get your own exclusive Rainbow Neos versus Red Eyes Dragoon playmat.